Thank you very much for having me.
Don't thank me yet.
You have the right to remain silent.
Is it finished?
Yeah, I just your character expired.
Because it's in a TV.
Do you have a single fact to back that up?
You know, this is the one where
Think you're funny?
You understand me?
I think you need to go get a dictionary.
It's all you, pal.
Oh, it's all me, is it?
Yeah. Introduce the world to
Jesus Christ.
what we're doing.
We are
Okay.
reviewing The Fountain.
The what?
The Fountain.
The Fountain.
Uh,
Talk about it.
well, we were trying to come up with something to watch that was a little bit off the beaten path. So we ventured into directors that have fancy sounding names. So we went with Darren Aronofsky, and we went with The Fountain, which he made in 2006. I think he made Requiem for a Dream in 2004, if memory serveth, but I'm not sure. So I still think this was somewhat early in his game, but I don't know how early or whatever. I can't really picture his filmography off the top of my head, but anywho, so we watched it, and I see you're still erasing the whiteboard, so I was going to ask you what you thought about it, but
Well, go ahead.
I guess I'll just say what I think about it.
Go ahead.
Fuck it. Well, this is one of those movies where after seeing it, I'm still trying to figure things out, and I feel like I need to have some parts kind of dissected and talked about a little bit, and then maybe one day a rewatch and I'll be able to better follow some things.
Yeah.
I mean, I could understand it enough, or enough things where I was...
No, stop that.
I sound so far away.
Trust me. Just trust me.
How come you sound good?
Because it's closer and I'm going to move it away.
You're going to move it away to where it sounds bad?
No, I'm going to move it back.
It just sounded good a second ago.
Yeah, I know.
That sounds better to me, even if it is a little poppy. Let me just test it. Test. I think I sound bad no matter where it is.
Okay. Well, you do you.
Well, right there? Okay.
Sure.
We'll live. Anyway, so... I mean, I liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's different.
Wow, that was...
I like Hugh Jackman. Who doesn't like Rachel Weisz?
Huge Ackman.
Whatever you want to call him. Whatever
Huge
name.
Ackman.
Whatever. Huge Jackman.
Right.
He's cool.
I
would love to delve into some of the visual effects that were going on there, or in-camera effects.
Yeah.
Because I remember seeing some tidbits on how they were doing those shots where he was in the globe in space, or Never Land, or wherever the hell he was. I forget how they said they did that, but it was probably some like fucking lava lamp or something. They went to Spencer's and just bought a bunch of ooze, and
that makes no sense.
I don't know. But
so before we get into like details, no, spoilers.
as always,
if you could like sum up the movie in a way where it's like, what do you got to look at it?
well, usually I can see myself.
Is that better?
Because I like to glance over sometimes just to admire,
see who's who,
admire myself as a podcaster now.
Okay, so if you had to like sum this movie up on like kind of like a, hey, what's this, without getting into details about like specific things, like if someone's like, what's the movie about? What's kind of like what would be a good word, like synopsis that you could give them, like a couple sentences, not like, oh, this guy goes on 40, this and that, but like, because I have my version of it, and I want to see what yours is first.
This is like one of those weird paintings a person will look at with all this sort of unusual information compounded together or overlapping with each other.
Right.
And you can understand certain parts of it by itself, but all of it mixed together. Like you can you're trying to get a sense of how it all kind of interweaves with each other and how it
Yeah.
all is supposed to. But that's the thing with some of these like overly, whatever you want to call them, artsy fartsy kind
Well,
of.
yeah, it would be like overly artistic.
Yeah, the ones where, and not that there's anything wrong with that, as long as there's something to be figured out. I mean, that's
Right.
part of the intrigue of it, but
Right.
it's just one of those movies where, upon watching it, you're going to have sort of this like pensive look on your face, like,
Just of like a little confusion.
yeah, but there's enough going on where I want to see what happens next, even if I totally can't completely understand what's going on.
Right.
So the parts we can figure out is his wife has cancer
Sure.
and she's going to die.
Yeah.
And he's a surgeon and he's testing some kind of fucking medicine or drug on these monkeys to
Sure.
try to cure her.
Sure.
And maybe that medicine was that white fucking milk coming out of the tree of life at the end that somehow he transported from that universe into,
Well, like I said, don't go
His
into details.
universe.
Just
and then you're able to save your wife, but he was too late.
okay. Do you want my little tidbit of like what it's actually about?
Okay.
Okay, so in my mind, you have to break it up into 3 separate storylines. So you have him and the tree. The tree, obviously, to him represents his, what was her name? Like Elaine or something, I think, in the movie.
I don't know.
Um,
It was something cool.
But so the tree obviously represents her, and he is there basically
I want to look it up.
what seems to be like trying to keep it alive until they reach Shambhala, which is the dying star, or the Mayan like equivalent to life after death, or like a heaven, I guess. So in keeping it, okay, so that's
Izzy.
huh?
Izzy.
Izzy? Oh wow, way off. I
He-
said Elaine, and it's like such a
Elaine.
normal name compared to
He's
Izzy.
Thomas. Oh, she was Izzy.
Okay. So you have him in that realm, right?
Mhm.
So that's where he's at. Then you have him just kind of in everyday life dealing with this
Where he's
with her.
he's in the fucking globe in
So
one.
Globe Tree,
He's a surgeon in another.
right? And then the book that she is writing is the third storyline, which is he is a conquistador for the Queen of Spain, and he has to find a way to save the kingdom. But all 3 storylines have the same underlying story. He is in search for something to save her in every single one of the storylines. So him as the bald-headed monk guy and the tree, he's trying to figure out how to keep the tree alive until they get to the destination. In the normal life, he's trying to basically figure out how to use what you assume is like the same fungus or tree to save a monkey, and then that spurs the idea that he could then save her from the cancer and stuff. And then in the conquistador storyline, you have him trying to get to the tree to save her and Spain from certain death also. So it's like 3 parallel kind of like alternate universes telling the same story in a different light.
Mhm.
But the overarching story of all of it, I think, is so basically it's him dealing with death. And by the end of the movie, he accepts death. And that's why he ends up in like the enlightened state, so to say. That would be my like super rough, like, this is what the movie's about. But like, it's so over the top in some places that it just is like, ooh, take a deep breath, people, because it's confusing. Like it just, some of it doesn't make sense. And then others like, yeah, okay, I get that.
Yeah.
You know, so that would be my,
It's
the one-
yeah, it's for a certain kind of audience for sure.
the one thing I did like, she had a line. So do you remember when she fell in the museum and he was like, he caught her, and then in the hospital she's like, you know, I was free. She said something like, I was free, I was held, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, yeah, I held you. And he was brushing it off. If you watch that scene again and like really like kind of study her face, she wasn't talking about him at all. She was talking, and this is like my version of it. She was talking about accepting leaving, and she was free because she accepted it. And that like holding thing, I think was just kind of like a parallel to dying, of like being held and passing almost, that had nothing to do with him. And the one thing that kind of hit home for me is I told my mom this one time and she hated when I said it, but so chlorine in water like messes with my system because of asthma. When I was really young, I actually passed out one time from drinking too much chlorine. And I was only out basically from the time I was standing up to the time I hit the floor. And then my mom was over top of me, smacking my face, screaming. But I will tell you, that was the most peaceful moment of my entire life. There's nothing that compares to it, because it was just like, you don't have the option to like struggle. It's just like you don't have control. And like in that finite moment, it was like, oh, this is what it's like. Not to die, but just to like give up the reins, so to say. Like, you know, like Jesus, take the wheel for a second. But so like that, I get that a little bit. But I think that's like, I think that in this movie, I think that's what he was dealing with the whole time, because he was someone that had tried to have control of everything, and he was still trying to control it till the very end. So much so that he was like, death is a disease, and, you know, diseases can be cured and blah, blah, blah. So he's trying to control it the whole time. And her side of the story is let go. It's not, you can't control this. This is way beyond you type of a thing. So that's my spiel.
Well, I think you about summed it up better than I could muster.
Go ahead. Now your turn.
I don't really have much to add. I mean, yeah, that seems to have done it pretty good.
Kind of like what you said a little bit ago, though. It was like really artsy to the point where like some of that stuff definitely got buried a little deeper than I think it should have.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I guess this is just kind of like a fun exercise, but do you think that whole tree thing was necessary at all? Because I have a hard time thinking it was.
The part,
Just like
the,
him,
like the enlightened part,
yeah, just him with the tree.
where he was in the globe and space
Yeah.
and everything. That was probably the times where I kind of checked out a little bit of what was going on and just was kind of admiring the pretty scenery and effects going on. But as for like what he was doing, like racing around, being
Yeah.
bald, and just with this tree, I was like, I don't really know what the fuck is going on with him in this tree and why he's bald and why he's
Right.
running around. Why is he in a globe in space?
Right,
I mean, he was like in that nebulous or whatever
right.
up in space that was supposed to be the Mayans' dying star or something.
I that's why I assume it's like their version of heaven. I am assuming.
Yeah, and then that ties in with the fairy tale book she was writing,
Right.
with the fucking pen you dip in the ink, and
An old-fashioned pen.
yeah. So, I I mean, that's a cool way to write a book.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have really been it just wouldn't have had the same feeling if it was an Apple MacBook.
She's there with an Apple Pen writing
Yeah.
on a iPad.
Or if it was Microsoft Word document or
Right.
something. So that was the only way that was going to work, is if it was in a fancy fucking book with a fancy
Right.
fucking pen.
Right.
So yeah, like I said, I was having fun trying to piece it all together and what it all meant. And yeah, I enjoy the actors. I enjoy the look of the movie. I like the camera tricks. I like, it's just really cool stuff going on in there, both with the story and with the effects and in camera tricks and all that.
Yeah. So the biggest, I wouldn't call it an issue that I had with the movie. It was just something I noticed, and I was just kind of like, it's just me being me, like nitpicking, I guess, how things were done. So specifically the Conquistador, like a lot of the sets or like the scenes, so to say, were like very closed off spaces. Did you notice that at all?
Yeah.
So like they weren't gigantic areas. It was like, in rooms, or
I think it was a lower budget movie.
Well, that's what I assume. That's why I said it's not really like an issue that I have with it. It's just kind of like an observation that I was kind of like,
Yeah.
if I had so my issue with it is it definitely felt like everything was a set. That's what, but you can't get away from that to a certain extent,
Because the 3 different storylines were locked down to one
Very
specific
locked down,
location.
yeah. So it was like they were at their house, or they were at their house. He was at his office, lab, the hospital. That was like basically it for like the main storyline, except for like in the field when she passed.
I observed it, but it didn't really bother me.
I think when it started to bother me was when it was like that Conquistador timeline, when it really felt like it was like, how you could build a jungle set, but it felt like you were seeing the same stuff over and over. Like it's just like a really thin pathway they're on, and then there's trees and darkness all around. So
the whole thing was like was like mapped out in 2D.
Yeah.
He starts out right in front of the temple steps, goes up the steps through one guy, and there's the tree.
And that's why I said it's not like I don't really have an issue with it. It's just kind of like like it takes me out a little, but it's not. It is what it is,
Yeah, I guess because the movie is so allegorical, it's like, oh, we might as well just shave off every single distraction or thing that has nothing to do with
because
the presentation.
You can only get away with that for, if your budget is your budget, then you can't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't run away from that.
Did you like how the whole movie had this gold tinge to it?
Yeah, there was definitely a color play going on. I mean, I noticed it wasn't like anything. It was a choice, if that makes any sense. It wasn't like by accident for sure. But
that'd be a hell of an accident.
Yeah.
Every fucking shot is gold yellow.
Right. I didn't really gain anything from it at all. It wasn't like, holy shit, the color team should get an award.
Maybe you gained something subconscious.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about what you started off everything with, about just like how shots were done or whatever effects or whatever.
Well, I couldn't say off the top of my head how they did the stuff that they did, only to say that I had seen in times past some kind of doc or whatever about how they did the parts, specifically with him in the globe in space and the nebula effect dripping down all around him, constantly like pouring over this globe.
Go on.
I think
if you know,
before we look it up, inevitably, I think it was some kind of microscopic effect. Like maybe they did it almost through like filming something through a microscope,
Right.
and how a certain element like reacted, or
Yeah.
I don't know, but it was some way of like
I could see that because
enlarging it, and then
remember when he like looked up and like it was like the skylight in his lab or something. It almost looked like a petri dish that had like, and it looked like it was snowing outside, but it was like the snow like on the dish was like moving back, almost kind of like, yeah, it would have been like a microscope thing,
yeah,
you know.
or if they dumped some kind of element in water and that was
Right.
how it behaved in water. I'm not sure, but
Yeah, it was definitely
it
interesting.
was some like very like cheap in-house trick they did to achieve that.
Yeah.
So now I'm really curious to know
Yeah.
how it was. So it's like, yeah, you want a guy floating in a fucking globe in a nebulous in space. We can take care of that right here in the science lab. Just give
Right.
us a microscope and some goo from Spencer's lava lamp.
Spencer's.
And you want, and then the rest of this, we can convert this office space or your apartment into a doctor's office.
Right.
That's location 2. And then let's just go out in this alley over here, this set, and we're gonna make a jungle with a Mayan temple or whatever
Yeah.
fucking temple it was.
The fountain VFX in a petri dish.
Petri dish.
Called it.
It was a petri dish, everybody. Okay,
So
let's break it down a little bit.
let's look at this real quick. So I'm gonna pull the screen up for everybody to see while we're actually looking.
But with everything that makes,
Okay, so here's the set.
he's always doing something interesting.
Oh, okay. So there's the green screen, and then after. That's cool.
Very nice. Yeah. So, yeah, he's
Focus
always
on
doing
that.
really, really, really cool camera tricks.
Oh yeah. In terms of there being no CG at all. Very nice.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So yes, technically there's no CG.
That's pretty cool.
The Fountain Stars.
You'll have to watch Requiem for a Dream now.
Let's pop this up. What is this? Ah, cover your eyes.
For those just listening, we're watching a clip of a shot from The Fountain, a VFX shot,
Okay.
or
So
by
that
VFX,
was-
I don't mean CGI.
that was
In
just
camera visual effects.
I'm not sure what that was about. But yeah, there was plenty of just overall just cool things to like visually see. Like here. Like those shots.
So what is that? How are they doing that?
The fountain. Let's go to the fountain. Oh, inside the fountain. Dun, dun, dun. Without watching. Okay, well, let's cut to the wide. Okay, let's cut to the wide shot, and then, well, let's cut the matte. Because you can't see anything, and then we'll cut
Is YouTube gonna remove this part?
no, because you can't hear the audio or see it, so this is what everybody else is seeing.
It's just me.
I just wanted to see some behind the scenes stuff here real quick. If we could get some like petri dish shots or something, a lot of green screen. So everything was in camera. Obviously, when we say in camera, green screen was still used, but you can use shots of real things behind those shots.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
There's the man. Thank your
Right here,
parents for
right
giving
here
you
we
a
go.
cool name. Yeah, I just love it how it's just some shit you'd find in your kitchen, or
Well, I'm not sure how many people have Petri dishes, but
I'm sure plenty.
go pull yours out right now.
You think I have
Oh,
a fucking Petri dish in a place like this? I don't have anything normal, but I have everything unusual in here.
Oh, that was a. Oh, okay. Wow, look at that. That's crazy. So that's the. So they're literally using liquids to build the background galaxies of.
Oh yeah, that is so cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, so you're seeing really neat
Yeah.
shit going on here that you wouldn't see in every single
Right.
slam bam blockbuster of the weekend. You know,
Right.
because when it comes to Marvel Studios or Disney or whatever other Michael Bay production, you know,
Well, you can't slam Marvel or Disney.
we got some
Those-
fast ways of doing stuff,
You can't.
fast and dirty.
You can't beat them up too much because that's a pretty specific thing.
Hey man, I ain't knocking it. It's got its audience. They got their rhythm going down for them. All good in the hood, whatever. I mean, my
I'm
thing,
not knocking them after knocking them.
my thing always is: am I
Right.
convinced of what I'm seeing, or can I tell that this is bullshit? I can either suspend my
Well,
disbelief or I can't.
My argument
If I
with
can
Marvel
accept-
movies is, they're
If I can
comic book movies,
Well, if I can accept the universe,
right?
and be along and accept because they got to present the terms first and make me understand them, and then I can accept them. And
Right.
then when they throw something at me that is in direct conflict with those terms that we set, then I have a problem with your movie, or then I'm taken out of it.
And you see that's
Or then we have a
Marvel
hiccup, or we have
Disney.
what you call a what do you call it when a nitpick, or
Yeah,
it could be a big nitpick or a little
issue?
nitpick, or just something that like really, like,
Yeah.
you pull it and it'll unravel your whole quilt.
What a reference.
So with the fountain, I mean, you mentioned how like you could tell from the standpoint of being very indie and very low budget
Yeah.
that the restrictions of
Well, yeah,
what they had to work with was very apparent due to like the limitation on the
Yeah, you could-
locations
you
and
could
the.
tell they were sets and things like that.
Yeah, I was able
I-
to figure that, but
I-
it
but I
didn't
don't think
bother
that
me.
takes away
Not
from
really,
anything
because I
so.
can enjoy it in the same way, you know, like, you know, I could watch a stage play production or whatever. It's like, what am I going to stand up and be like, excuse me, but it's very obvious that this is a play.
Right.
They'd be like, well, yeah, you fucking moron. Like,
Yeah.
we're on a stage,
Yeah,
you're in a chair. So, I mean, we know we're watching a movie when we watch it.
Yes.
So.
I know. The only reason I said that is just because it was like with some things, like you have obvious sets, but it's not like super apparent that it's a set. Just because you buy into it. And so this,
I just love
it's-
in Marvel movies how when an entire highway is blowing up and aliens are shooting lasers at everything
Yeah.
and cars and debris is flying, how no civilian is ever hurt or
well, that's
crushed.
because it's a comic book
They're never
movie.
crushed or accidentally. Like, these superheroes would be accidentally like
See,
killing
I think you're contradicting
civilians all the time, but it's never an issue because, you know,
I think
they're
you're
not allowed to do
contradicting
that.
yourself though,
With what?
because Marvel does state its terms on what the movies are.
When? How?
Because
What?
they're Marvel comics turned into movies. There's no Marvel comics that are slaughtering people except for like Deadpool. Wolverine does. a
It
little bit,
doesn't
but-
even suggest that, like, in the
The boys.
no, in Man of Steel,
Yeah.
when
go ahead.
Superman and Zod are smashing each other through
I won't talk
skyscrapers,
about DC films. They're
So
not.
don't
anywhere close.
they then reference though later that, like, hey, when you guys were like throwing
I
down in
think
the city,
Batman was talking.
you,
about
like,
it or
killed
something like that.
people.
Yeah.
did they make a big deal of it, a big fuss about that, or was it just a
No, it was just like you
mention
killed
and then-
people, and then it was like, oh, and that was it.
that was it? Well, they should, because that's the stuff that makes it complicated and interesting. Like that's an actual fucking like legitimate thing to explore.
But that's based in real life.
But no, the Marvel people. Oh no, we got to fight the fucking faceless aliens.
well, they have
for-
a face. They have a face.
Or
so-
the nameless who gives a shit CGI monster aliens. We got to fight those for an hour and a half
the
instead of
T'Challa.
exploring interesting avenues of
Chitauri.
what would happen if Captain America went to go throw his shield and an alien ducks and it hits some woman in the face in front of her kids. Then what would happen?
Well, that's not Marvel. That's
That's
my
why
point.
I don't watch Marvel.
That's why I said I think you contradicted yourself because you're like, if they state the terms of the universe, then I buy into it. And you have to understand.
By being PG-13, that just gives every fucking person running down the highway of explosions immunity to fire
well, okay.
and being
So
crushed.
here,
They don't have to show blood.
Let me explain it
They
to you.
don't have to
this way.
show blood.
No, let me
In
explain
I
it to
Am
you this
Legend,
way.
that was PG-13, and everyone in the world died.
Listen. Well, that was so disconnected. You didn't see people just dying.
Well, this
everywhere.
can be, there's a bit of a blur between disconnect and seeing
Okay,
someone get
So
splattered.
let me explain this to you. So when comic books came out, who were they geared towards?
Kids, I guess.
Right. So back in the day when they came out, I don't know how many bloody comic books would have been sold if they just let kids run.
How many bloody comic books would have been sold?
Do you know what I mean? So
Sure.
so
I'm
the
just saying.
audience obviously has grown up. So you move this thing in, like there's no Spider-Man comic book that's going to get sold to a kid when Spider-Man is just like literally throwing people off of buildings and they're all killing other people as they fall to the ground in realism.
Look, here's the thing. After 30 fucking Marvel movies in a row, and every single one of them, you do not see innocent people getting crushed and annihilated and mayhemed
you do like in
and
backgrounds
suggested
and
that
stuff,
they've
yeah.
been destroyed.
Well, you know that's what Thanos' thing is, right?
Well,
was
yeah,
the whole
he like deletes half of the world off screen,
The galaxy,
the galaxy.
universe. All half
Okay,
of them are gone.
so they finally got around to it.
Right.
That's nice. Good. I'm glad it took them long enough.
Well, that's the storyline.
I'm just look. The thing.
It all can't be The Walking Dead.
Wait a
where
minute.
everybody's
Wait a
just
minute.
shooting
Just
zombies.
hold up. The entire Marvel universe from
Mhm.
Iron Man 1 all the way up through until Infinity fuck whatever,
There's two.
the one right before the last one. all up
Infinity
until
War.
that moment, innocent bystanders had an immunity shield from lasers, fire, buildings, cars, debris, shrapnel, bullets, whatever, everything. They couldn't be hurt.
Okay.
Now all of a sudden, it's like someone just removed the immunity shield, and then it's like, well, we're going to make up for a lot of lost death, and Thanos is like, give me those Infinity Stones. Now I'm going to delete half of the galaxy. Delete. Boo.
Well,
It's like, oh, what? Now, so Marvel went from being at the bottom of the totem pole, so far at the bottom of the totem pole, they're like underground in terms of like innocent people, like a believability factor in innocent bystanders and collateral damage happening to innocent people.
well,
We go from that all the way up to we're taking top claim. We're eliminating half of the galaxy.
well, that's
Because a lot of movies don't do that. Mass Effect, gets kind of close, but
that. I mean, it's
that's
not
a game.
It's not like they wrote that story for the movies, though. That movie's been around that story's been around for a while.
What story?
Of Thanos.
What? Well, sure, whatever. I don't.
And
my
listen,
point is,
They do address it. You're skipping over a couple things because, like in the Captain America Civil War movie, they address the fact that they destroyed all these like buildings and killed people in New York City and whatever that other place was, and that's why
Oh.
Captain America and Iron Man like went at it because they had difference of opinions on the matter. So
So they just talked about it off screen.
no, they fought
about something that happened
until they
off
almost
screen.
killed each other.
But well, okay. So they beat each other up
Yeah,
because some people died in a building.
no, because they didn't agree on how it was handled.
Okay, so they referenced people that had died
Yeah.
that didn't happen on screen.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Well, whatever.
I guess my point is, what would you want them to do? Because it can't all be like The Boys,
What
where it's
I
like
want,
hyper realistic.
what I fucking want with these Marvel movies is when you have these big and this is why I don't get into these movies. When you have these big goddamn massive epic wars between superheroes and alien races
Right.
in cities, highly populated areas, and there's no fucking threat of any innocent people being hurt
Well, that's
because
just.
it's a Marvel movie, takes me right the fuck out of it.
Well, I think
you
that's
know
just
that
off camera.
We already
stuff.
know that the fucking superheroes have immunity, and now all the innocent people have immunity too. The only ones that don't are the stupid no-name aliens that are on screen for half a second before they get Hawkeye's arrow through their face, or Captain America's shield through their eye.
So okay,
or
so if you could
Iron
change
Man
a Marvel
cannon
movie, what would
blasting.
it be?
What?
If you could change a Marvel movie, what would it be?
Just have some fucking stakes from time to time, like when they're throwing down, like have like actual lives hanging in the balance and show like lives being at least suggested of lives being lost, or actual like have some fucking we'll have better investment if there's more of like a believability factor, and they'll and we'll be more entwined with the story if
so
you actually make us believe that lives are actually in danger because but when the rule book says no people are allowed to
did
die
anybody notice
until
Matthew
we
over here?
so specifically pen it in there when some if you look at the fucking movie poster chart,
Yeah.
someone that has billing number 7 or 8 will kill them off.
Well, they killed Robert Downey.
Ooh, and then they're gonna bring him back.
No, they're not. Iron Man's dead.
Ooh, well, my point. So they did that at the very, 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 very
Well,
end.
yes, because
good.
he had to sacrifice himself.
Great. I'm glad they did that. I'm talking about the journey. This is the whole thing. They saved all of this, all of the death
Yeah.
and the big plays
Uh-huh.
and the actual. Now all of a sudden half the galaxy's gone.
It's back now.
How come the entire journey up until this point, everybody had the fucking immunity of Marvel? We're innocent and we can't be touched by anything because we're family friendly in that such sort
Well,
of way.
it's not that. It's because they had a story, an overarching story that basically trumped all the movies.
I'm just saying, when the whole highway's blowing up and
They were evacuated.
and you see cars like going doosh 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 like a tumbleweed
Well, yeah,
down the
they
road.
were. They
Just
were
nobody
evacuated.
gets hurt.
They were evacuated.
Of course
from
they
the highway.
were.
I mean, what else?
There's no bodies in the streets. There's no blood. There's just
That's why I asked.
it's
What,
just a
what would
bunch
you
of-
want out of it, though?
it's just
because,
a bunch of fucking paper
see-
mache and styrofoam and fake cars and shit that they lay
It's all
around the
CG.
set with and then it's a big green screen and some CG fire.
Right. No, I'm just saying, like, where do you start to be okay with it? Because, like, we've had Spider-Man movies where Spider-Man's saving, a train or someone falling through the air. Like, how far do you want that to go to need to be believable? Because Marvel movies aren't supposed to be based in realism or believability from, like, a realist standpoint.
You know what helped the Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans is when
Christ.
Uncle Ben got capped.
So you want that again? Another 3 times?
Well, at least somebody died, like
Right.
to like illustrate the fact that people can die in this movie.
Well, people do die in the Marvel universe. It's just
I can't think who even dies at all.
a lot of bad guys. A lot of bad guys.
Yeah,
die,
sure.
That's not good
a lot of aliens that are on screen for half a second.
right?
CGI aliens that pop on screen with their laser gun and they go booga booga booga, and then Hawkeye's like pew.
Yeah, guys. You You know, all those Marvel aliens that booga booga. Captain America, booga booga.
It's just like it's an opportunity to watch. You know, you like the characters. Nothing
It's
wrong with it.
it's like
Yeah.
Star Wars. You can't.
It's fun to watch them pull off their
Yeah.
signature moves on the baddies and all of that. I'm just
Right.
saying, I would like to see a completely redoing of this whole Marvel train of
Right.
movies, just through a different scope.
Well,
The scope of there's actual
I
stakes
think that's
now,
what you're gonna have, like
and
Logan coming out
believability.
and like Deadpool. That's what those are for.
Did you say Logan?
Yeah.
Yeah, like
That's
Logan.
what those are for. Is to
Speak of Hugh
aid to
Jackman.
that.
I thought we were talking about the Fountain.
What? We were, and then you went crazy on.
Well, we
Marvel
finally got
movies.
back to Hugh Jackman by
Hugh
mentioning
Jackman.
Logan.
But I guess my point with all of it would be like Star Wars movies. If you really picked apart Star Wars movies, there's no way they hold up. I mean, the amount of stormtroopers that would have killed somebody is like astronomical and uncountable at this point. You know what I mean?
Well, there's always some excuse with the Star Wars movies. They just say
Yeah,
the
but-
Force
Right.
deflects all the
Some excuse.
stormtrooper lasers, whatever the fuck, midichlorians floating
right, right,
around.
right. No, I mean, look, you have to be able to say any movie can be picked apart. There is no movie that can't be picked apart.
This is the perfect way to illustrate my point.
Okay, go ahead.
When Superman and Zod
When I
were,
don't like a movie, I hate
We're-
everything about
were WWFing each other through the skyscrapers,
right.
And
they
they-
reference
and they
Killing
mentioned,
people.
hey, by you two squabbling about, innocent lives were lost.
yeah.
Just that right there is a start.
Well, Marvel did that.
At the very, 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 very fucking end, when Thanos deleted the
No,
galaxy,
in Civil War, they taught that was like that whole movie was about.
they
More or less is what it was about. The Avengers being split up in their ideology about like how they're doing things versus what they should be doing to like basically not cause any deaths or destruction.
Well, that's sweet and everything, but with the Zod and
Yeah,
Superman,
I know. My point is, what's
you
the
actually
difference?
saw the destruction of the skyscrapers, and so when you watch that scene in context, you know that there are innocent people in those buildings while they're pile driving each other and Batista bombing each other
That sounds
through
a
them.
little nitpicky,
You know that as they're like fucking bullet riding each other,
right?
bullet hump riding each other through the
Mhm.
through the skyscraper, and then it falls over. There's people in there. Shit.
Right.
Like, this is some serious shit, and this is what happens when superheroes fight in cities. This
Right.
is it's that element in this is just the detractor. When you watch,
I want to hear your takes on Winnie the Pooh next because of how unrealistic that is.
I've never seen. I don't even give a bother. I've never seen it. Look, in The Boys, you know that
you
like
can't compare those because they're not
the
the
hell
same
I
thing.
can't.
No, because you're taking
Yes,
it out
they're
of
perfect
context.
to compare.
You're
I'm
taking
not taking shit out of.
yes,
nothing.
you are, because you're going to say, okay, in The Boys, it's so realistic. That's what I can buy into. That's not what
I
Marvel
wouldn't say
movies
no. I
are.
wouldn't say realist. I wouldn't use that word necessarily.
Okay, go on without saying realism or realistic or anything that pertains to reals.
Stakes and actual concern and actual believability and tension
Believability based in what?
based in the fact that there are consequences to superheroes throwing down in cities.
In the real, yeah, based upon
because
like a
if-
real world.
Because there's more to think about. With the Marvel movies, all it is just like, will Hawkeye put his arrow through the alien's head? Of course he will.
Right.
Will Scarlett Johansson swing from a fucking alien flying on a glider and then like hip drop another one as she's flying down to land on another glider and look sexy while doing it because she's Scarlett Johansson? Yes. And you know all that's going to succeed, and you know that the alien's ass is grass and the superhero is going to look cool while doing it. And we've been watching it for 27 and a half movies.
Right.
And with The Boys, at least the tension exists there because there are consequences to doing war in a city
Well, right.
when it's superheroes and aliens.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
It's just
But
a factor.
Well, I just think of course it's a factor, but That's why we have like do you believe it or like do you believe the world? Because the Marvel world is not the same as like the boys universe. The Marvel world is very disconnected from what a real world would be because it's the Marvel universe.
In Watchmen,
which is a boys-esque type feel.
Ozymandias and Dr. Manhattan conspired to nuke Manhattan and then have it blamed on Dr. Manhattan to make the whole world think that Dr. Manhattan was responsible for the attack, and so therefore the world would be united in fighting against a god,
right?
Which was Dr. Manhattan, and it was the only thing to save humanity from World War III with itself. And so then the salvation of humanity was based on a lie. That's cool. It's just in the same way that the Dark Knight movie, how Batman took the blame for Harvey Dent's murder.
Right.
Complex. That was cool. I like shit like that.
Right.
But
of course, that's what I'm saying.
you don't really get that with Marvel so much.
Well, I understand that. I'm not saying that it is complex.
Now look. I've said this before. Iron Man 1 is a great movie. Not a good movie. It's a great movie. I really love Iron Man 1.
Right.
Iron Man 2 was a steaming, frothing bag of baboon shit. 3 was okay.
Yeah.
And it's because the first one didn't have all the baggage of doing the Marvel thing at that point. It was just like it could be its own.
Let's rock and roll.
Yeah, it was right in the pocket. It was focused, right on that. Gave us one of the coolest fucking characters like I've ever seen. Like Tony Stark, dude, he's the man. He's like
okay. So can I stop you real quick? Everything that you have talked about that you shed light in a positive way on is hyper grounded into a realist, this type of world character or movie, which is your style. That's my whole point. It's not that the Marvel movies are bad.
Well, what do we mean by real?
You could see them in this world. Yes, the answer is yes.
I like to better put it the way we have it on the board with the do you believe it in the context of like
the movies
the
universe.
Movie is presenting you these terms,
right? And in Marvel movies, you almost have to say yes because that's what all Marvel movies are, and most of the comic books are to a certain extent.
It's a lot of shooting aliens. And it's a lot of humor.
You say a lot of shooting.
It's a lot of jokes and humor.
There's a lot of movies that have nothing to do with
funny
aliens.
15 movies ago.
You do know that, right? All the movies are not alien based.
Whatever. Aliens, robots, whatever the fuck they're fighting, whatever nameless, faceless thing without a soul.
They all always have names and faces, to be honest, but
it's just some big CGI boss and a bunch of CGI army. Right. It's like bugs or it's robots or it's like aliens or creatures with masks. And
okay, so you name 5 movies that don't have some type of aspect of those in it as a bad guy.
Raiders of the Lost Ark. You could see all those Nazis' faces.
Okay. There's one. But that was
what are we doing here?
I'm just picking. I was just
what are we looking at? We're trying to figure out what.
No. My point has always been what it is, specifically with your like or dislike with Marvel movies. One, it has to be made computer based. There's no way you can do any of these stories in all super hyper realist stuff. And then two. You do, whether you know it or not, like things and movies and stories that are more based in a world that you could literally put in our world because it's like a connection thing for you. It's like, oh, I could see that happening tomorrow in, Iran. So that makes sense. This movie makes sense.
I could see the Watchmen happening in Iran.
No, you could see that happening in America. my point is that the Marvel movies are so disconnected from like actual reality that there's no like basis that you like enjoy with them for the most part. The one movie you said you enjoyed, guess what that was? Super realist Tony Stark, based in real world, no super outside of the box stuff.
And it was
His
beautiful.
villain was some other guy, right?
And that was the least good part of the story.
Right.
When Iron Man and Jeff Bridges were throwing down at the end, that was the least interesting part.
Right. Yeah, that's all. That's my point. That's all my point is with you. I just Marvel movies weren't made for someone like you that can't just enjoy that, like the fun side of it. Because here's my point. In Batman, Watchmen, in The Boys, that fun side is still there. It's just it's hyper based in realism where every action has a consequence. And in Marvel movies, you don't see that every action has a consequence. It's more of just like the bigger picture type story, which I don't know that you enjoy that. I would say you don't enjoy that much, or you can't disconnect from it enough to like see that.
I had fun.
That's my same thing with Star Wars. If I could nitpick those movies to the point that I don't like them, but I'm not going to do that. Because I love like surrendering over to that idea that this is a real thing and kind of whatever happens on the screen is like, yeah, I'll live with it.
Well, some things you don't have to dissect too hard before you find yourself completely taken out of the universe. And then other things.
Like I said, I don't know of any movie that you've ever shown me that's hyper CG or hyper disconnected from like our world. Our actual world. I don't know that you've ever said you should watch this movie that is not super connected.
So, well, that's kind of murky.
I don't know. It's pretty straightforward.
All I was talking about was Marvel movies.
Yeah, you went on a rampage about how you hated Marvel movies because
all I was talking about was how these damn Marvel movies just like gave everybody, all the fucking civilians, immunity bubbles all the time, and it was so goddamn distracting and annoying.
Yeah, and
I think there was more potential. But you know, if they want to do their if that's part of the Marvel brand is to,
well, yeah, of course,
innocent people just to run away screaming and not ever get fucking actually killed by anything.
Right?
Like, when is an alien gonna be like, or Captain America's gonna see like pull like a fucking car off of somebody? Thank you, Captain America, and they go running away, and the alien's just like pew 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 and shoots like lasers into
that's
the person.
Not going to happen because that's not a Marvel movie.
Of course not.
That's my point. That's not a Marvel movie.
And that's not how war works. That's just,
well, of course not.
Well, look,
it's not a war movie.
The cool thing about superheroes is like, holy shit, these people with these abilities.
Yeah.
What would happen if they lived?
Keep it a little higher.
If we mixed their abilities and people that had those powers mixed it with our world. Right. The only thing Marvel explores or mines from that is, hey, this character has a cool move and they're going to do it to an CGI alien.
Right.
And now, granted, the dynamic between the fucking Avengers squad is fun and cool, and I enjoy all that shit. And the characters are great. You know, Tony Stark, cool.
Characters are great. Doesn't name one except Tony Stark.
It's just these fucking battles all the time. That CGI battles where nobody gets hurt. Where only the fucking CGI aliens get it.
Right.
Until like every fucking 7 movies that are like the apex of a trilogy somewhere within this behemoth of a
you act like it's unexplainable. It's really not unexplainable. Marvel even came out.
You know, we might kill Vision or something.
Yeah, they did,
and then just fucking bring him back 2 movies later,
right?
Because now there's time travel.
I mean, he's dead, but it's
who cares? I am sort of interested again because we're getting this Spider-Man deal with the 3 of them, right?
Well, as rumor has it, yes.
Oh God. Rumor.
Well, okay, so to explain, well, it's not them fucking it up. I would assume
missing an opportunity that would be great.
Do you know how they would be missing an opportunity, or do you just want to see all three
I want to see all three Spider-Mans
Okay, so
together.
I'll tell you how it happens. So, without going into a ton of different BS, there are characters in the Marvel universe that literally guard the timeline. And through various events, the timeline itself became kind of like ruptured and started branching off into they call it the multiverse, but different versions of the same timeline.
This is how you keep a franchise going forever.
How do you think they fucking made so many comic books, Matthew?
I'm not saying there's
They've
anything
got-
wrong with it.
They
That's
could
it.
literally make thousands of
I'm not
movies if
saying
they
there's
wanted.
anything wrong with it.
Oh,
You can do all
you
kinds of crazy
The
shit.
last 20 minutes was, I hate Marvel.
What, do you think they were going to stop after Avengers 1?
No, they definitely had like a whole phase 4 planned.
I saw Avengers 1 and the movies that came before it, and I was like, I'm checking out now.
I think the Infinity War movies are the best ones because those two movies are the most grittiest it gets overall. You still wouldn't like it because you'd be like, I didn't see that guy's head get chopped off.
No, I saw
The first one, Infinity War
Yes.
1. Yeah.
I saw that. I saw 1, didn't see 2, saw 3, didn't see 4.
Yeah. I mean, you didn't see Tony Stark die, so that's on you.
Ooh.
So
Whatever.
anyway, so
He's only been at this for like fucking 20 years at this point. He probably died of old age in 5 years anyway.
probably not, but so the timeline anyway gets ruptured and all these like branches start popping up. So they call it the multiverse because literally there are just different versions of everything happening. So you want to watch here, let's watch the trailer.
YouTube gonna get us.
No, I'll turn the audio. So the No Way Home, Spider-Man No Way Home.
Look, and I think this Tom Holland dude is a good Spider-Man. Like I enjoyed
Don't
his Spider-Man
you can't
portrayal.
dig yourself out of this hole.
I'm not in a hole in my mind.
Yeah, because Marvel's awful. I only like war movies that kill everybody. That's realism.
You see, you're taking a certain amount of substrata and you're just like honing in on that. And
Stop! You're like yelling into the mic. Stop bringing.
well,
it
whatever
closer.
helps you hear the point.
Keep it.
Maybe you'll finally understand.
No, I'm just picking on you. So the whole story behind this guy right here is Doctor Strange.
Yeah, I knew
So
that.
here's Spider-Man, and there's Spider-Man coming out of his body, right?
Fascinating.
Okay, so let's camera's on you and the audio's down. So let's.
So we're watching the new trailer.
Oh wait,
for-
I'm gonna turn the mics off and then we'll listen. Oh wait, no.
$39 after the panels.
How often do they inject all this social justice warrior bullshit into these movies?
What? Social justice warrior? What
Is there some kind of fucking like narrative or message that they keep pumping into all of these movies?
I'm not sure what you're talking about, to be honest with you.
Never mind.
You should have started with "I saw the trailer."
Well,
I'm like, okay, we're gonna watch this trailer. Well, I have seen this, by the way.
that could have been.
Oh, okay.
That could have been another trailer. It
No,
could have
this is
been.
one trailer. So the whole idea is Doctor Strange tries to obviously reverse time so Peter Parker is not known as Spider-Man. And obviously Peter Parker can't keep his hands off of anything and basically opens the multiverse up. So the idea here is we are getting
Back to
Well-
the Future with Spider-Man.
it's not Back to the Future. It's the same time. It's just different time versions of them.
They got a problem though, don't they? If all of the actors are getting older and now they're going to go back to like
No, it
original
would just be
timelines?
It would be just an alternate version of that character. Whether they're older or not is not a factor. It would just be at that time period on that timeline. This is what
So this is how they're going to get to suit up different actors in the suits and all that.
possibly. That's the rumor, because it's basically already confirmed that Doc Ock, obviously you saw him on screen, Green Goblin, Reptile, Sandman, maybe Electro is all coming back as villains in this one movie because the multiverse
Great.
opened up. And so all these villains can come say hi to this Peter Parker, but we're hoping
Is there going to be
that
actual
Garfield and
like
what's his face?
complexity or intrigue going on with any of these
what does
movies?
that mean?
Or is this
to
just
you?
an opportunity for characters to crawl on screen?
You
and
know
go,
that's what a Marvel
hey,
movie
remember
is.
me? Brr, blow a party horn and then fight for 2 minutes in CGI magic. And then
You know that's what
they're
it's
out of
going to
it.
be. I'm not sure what you're wanting out of this. You're like, I want a Marvel movie to not be a Marvel movie.
Remember,
Like I said, that's
look,
what Logan and like Deadpool, that's what they're for.
remember in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man's
That
how
was
Green
Sony.
Goblin
Right.
actually had like a point to why, and you could kind of get behind
Yeah.
it, or at least understand
Yeah,
why
yeah.
he was doing the things he was doing. And Doc Ock too.
Yeah. Until Spider-Man 3.
Forget Spider-Man 3.
That was a
But there
trash
was
movie.
actually like there was a fucking motive you could understand behind them in those movies. In these movies, I bet when Doc Ock shows up, he's just gonna be like, "Hey kids, booga booga booga! I'm Doc Ock. I'm gonna throw around my tentacles for
I-
2 minutes in
I don't know
CGI
that
fashion before
it's
I
gonna be
get
that,
webbed
but-
up." And I doubt he's gonna have anywhere near the
Okay,
same
so-
screen presence or impact. It's just a fucking T-shirt of the week here with Doc Ock.
T-shirt.
Like this,
Seems a bit dramatic.
it's just somewhat no, like it's cool that Doc Ock is back. Sure, I hope they bring Tobey Maguire back into 3 Spider-Mans or whatever to do some kind of cool shit. Whatever, more
So-
power to you.
Well, okay, so I guess my whole point, my argument with this is like, you can't make a Marvel movie something it's not, because then it's not a Marvel movie. That's why you have other movies. Like, so this is my argument with DC. DC has a perfect opportunity to do something in DC fashion that is usually more grittier, more realistic, and they don't. And then you would have some actual contrast between kind of what could be called like the sunny side of comic book movies and then the darker side, which is DC has always been. They just don't do it. They just color grade their stuff dark
Sure.
and then try to replicate Marvel.
I think what you have with Marvel is it's begun, like you said. I think that's a great way of putting it: the sunny side and the dark side of superhero movies.
Well, that's what Marvel. That's why I keep saying you can't.
Marvel
change,
movies
it's
can
not-
be for your kids before they go to school.
Jesus Christ, you're so
Or
dramatic.
something when they get home to
And
distract them.
Then
So,
DC can be late night
You know.
death fest.
and DC, if they would learn to get their shit together and actually make movies on tone
Right.
and not try to make them like Marvel. Refer to our fucking Justice League review if you want to see what happens when you blend DC with fucking
Marvel.
Marvel
You Marvelify DC.
Marvel fucking yolk to get started, or
What?
Marvel ingredients.
Marvel yoke.
You,
We're
yeah.
not dealing with egg whites.
Well, it's like trying to make fucking eggs out of
Stop pushing this
brown
down.
sugar and dust and
Right.
pizza.
Right.
Like you're not going to get your desired result.
Right.
And Joss Whedon, it's incredible how somebody with that many credentials can make something as fun as the Avengers 1 and then
So dramatic.
and make Buffy the Fuck Slayer,
What?
which is super successful, and then think it's a good idea to take Batman and the Justice League and just absolutely destroy it.
Well, that's a
He's
very fun, giddy type
I don't know
guy
if
that
Joe Biden is destroying America more,
Oh my
or
God,
if
you're
Joss
you're so
Whedon
dramatic.
destroyed the Justice League more.
let's talk about that then.
All right.
Hey, we were talking about the fountain an hour ago.
Well, we said all you can say about the fountain. Like, honestly,
And now Matt's just trying to
Look.
destroy all Marvel hope.
if you like artsy fartsy, poetic, allegorical, if you don't know what that word means, and you probably don't, well, you probably won't like
Go
this
ahead.
movie.
Go ahead, explain.
If you want to see something different, if you want to see something with acting and emotion and something off the beaten path, and if you like Hugh Jackman, and you're into camera tricks
Yeah.
and cool stuff and low budget indie filmmaking and directors with cool sounding names,
Yeah.
this might
Just
just
a tick in the box.
yeah, just
Darren
know that it's
Aronofsky.
not one of those fucking like your by the numbers cookie cutter thriller of the
Right.
week movie. Somebody stole the codes to the nuclear weapon, got to grab my pistol and get them back, and they kidnapped the girl.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's more of like a 90s movie, probably.
And now you're going to tell me all 90s movies are better than Marvel movies.
Well, a lot of them are.
Oh, my
Hell of a lot of
God.
them. Are you kidding?
Oh,
Jesus
my
Christ.
God.
Get out of here.
That's why we have different audiences for different movies. That's why I think it's
Sure,
just
whatever.
funny you get so amped up about
Subjective, bojective, whatever.
it. Well, you know it's true.
What's true? Nothing's true. Oh,
What? Nothing is true.
nothing makes any sense
Oh
anymore.
my God. So dramatic. So going back with the fountain, because this has quickly turned into a not fountain podcast.
Well, it was the prompt to talk about some
What,
outstanding anomalies, let's call them.
What would you
In,
let's rate the fountain before we
cinematic.
get too far off again.
Okay, so for those of you that have no fucking idea how we rate movies, we have, what is it, 5 categories
Yeah, I
That
don't
we-
remember what this one was.
grade these movies on.
This has been rubbed off. Like literally the whiteboard is gone.
Huh. Oh, I'm really trying to remember.
Rewatch. So we have rewatch, story, characters, believe it. Like, do you believe in the universe or story of it? But I don't remember what that one was.
Maybe we'll think of it by the time we get to it.
So, rewatchability for you.
For the fountain,
At 1 out of 5.
I thought we were doing
Or
1
is
out
it
of
1
10.
out of 10? Oh, yeah, sorry. 1
Uh,
out of 10.
Rewatchability, I would give it a 9 because, you gave it a 5.
Go ahead and explain
Nah,
your
wait,
9.
Make it an 8. Make it an 8. Make it an 8.
Because then I'll explain mine.
Because I like this Aronofsky fucker, and I want to.
Well, that
Understand.
doesn't play into the movie. That's
Sure
not
it
the
does.
movie.
Because his style is written all over the movie,
Right.
and I liked it.
And that's the only reason you would rewatch it is just Darren?
Well, no, I mean everything going on with it. I thought there was enough, like every element of the movie, like had enough in it that had me interested enough, and because I was trying to understand it,
Yeah.
my first go around, and I was able to put some of it together, but maybe not get everything. I don't know how soon, because look, in this world we're living in today, there's only so much time in the day
So dramatic.
to watch
Listen.
If I had lived for infinity years,
Okay.
I would definitely take this movie and slap it under the rewatch list. I just have no fucking
So-
idea when the hell
So
I would
just-
ever get to
I
it.
would just want to remind you that on the scale, anything above 5 is like a preferable thing. So at 8,
7.
you're watching
7.
this more than other movies
7.
by a long shot.
7. It's a 7. I want to, because it's one of those ones where it's like it suggests that you watch. I don't know. Just next.
Jeez. Okay, so why I did a 5 is, to me, it's a little on, not the movie's on par, but rewatchability is on par. It doesn't make me like, if someone was like, hey, do you want to watch The Fountain? It doesn't get me like, oh, yeah, I want to watch this. But it also doesn't, it's not like I'm going to shoot it down if that's what we're watching.
Fair enough.
So for me, it's a little on par. Story. Deep breath.
6.
That's what I was gonna do.
I mean, it's a dude that loves his wife. She's dying, and there's some weird fucking ways
Right.
of illustrating that.
This is almost like, I know this is gonna sound kind of demeaning a little bit, but like when you think about it in that context, isn't this just like a little bit more of a stressful romantic comedy or romance movie?
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing.
It's like a romance, like not thriller, but it's like just a stressed out romance.
I think we're drawing a simple picture with a fancy brush here.
right. Yeah, of course.
Just a really fancy fucking brush. Yeah, so
It's in Markel.
Markel.
It's in Markel.
I really wish I knew what that last category was. I thought I would think of it by now. It's starting to bug me that I don't know.
I know it was like a Y of some sort, maybe.
Characters, believability. Fuck, I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't remember. I may be able to watch old podcasts and like see.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll have to look up an old episode. We'll come up with our own category
Yeah.
for it this time.
Okay, so the characters in general, and let's be honest, there was like 3 main characters.
Yeah.
Or,
Hugh Jackman, Thomas, Rachel Weisz, Izzy, and
the tree.
The tree.
No, I was gonna say the older woman, I guess, but
Oh yeah.
I'll explain that number then.
Okay, terrific.
So-
I'll give it a 7.
Okay. So I gave it an 8, mostly because I didn't have a hard time believing any of the characters, just the characters. If I just take the characters and put them on a sheet of paper and kind of like assess the acting and like just the character itself, because like Hugh Jackman's character obviously was like a husband that was just like at his wit's end. Like you didn't question that at all. And then what's her name? What'd you say her name was?
Izzy.
Izzy, but played by Evie, or played Evie in
You
The
could say
Mummy.
that.
Played Evie in The Mummy. What's her name? I don't know what her name.
Rachel Weisz.
Oh, that's right. You said that, and you were like, "Oh, man, it was." I don't know. But I think obviously like her character was pretty complicated. Because obviously sick, going through chemo, maybe not. But like I think she played the character really well, and you definitely believed it. Like there wasn't like any part where I was like, I don't think she gets it type of a deal. Like obviously it wasn't the best character in the world. Like I was not like, holy shit, oh wow. But
Yeah.
it was like it was well above par for me in the sense that like you could kind of feel the confusion even when she was starting to kind of like buy into death.
Yeah.
That confused, like, you know, I'm ready and, you know, blah, 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 blah. But that's why I think, I mean, the actors were good, just taking those 2 at least.
Just Hugh Jackman's facial expressions sometimes are just a joy.
Yes, for sure.
So yeah, it's like solid casting, not whole lot of actors, but I mean, you're dealing with like top talent in the acting department.
Right.
Maybe it would have been a lesser movie. Oh, I say maybe, of course, if it would have had lesser actors, it would have been a lesser movie.
Well, maybe.
I mean, if you have shit actors, that usually detracts a little bit.
Well, you said lesser actors. You meaning talent or just no name?
Talent.
Okay. Then yes, of course.
Sometimes the no name thing works really well.
for sure. All right. So, do you believe it? And this question is based on like the movie-based universe it in. that
This
that
is
it's
such a
in.
fucking hard one.
That has nothing to do with our world.
It's a guy that drinks milk out of a tree and then flowers
It's definitely
bloom out of
sap.
his stomach and his mouth and his eye sockets.
That would be sap.
Oh, whatever.
But that was in the book. I'm assuming. That's what was confusing about all that was that I think was based in that book that she was writing, but it was a little
yeah, that's the stuff I
confusing.
need to kind of figure out a little bit.
I would say
I just put it.
6.
I'll just put a fucking. I don't know what to give it because I don't even know what the hell I saw really in every
But do you
circumstance.
believe it?
Just give it a 6. I mean, I didn't see anything that made me go like
What does that mean? Like you didn't believe it, or
oh, this movie, I can't stop thinking about this glaring
Okay.
plot hole.
right?
Fuck this movie now.
Rewatch story characters believe it.
What the hell would that have been? God damn it. Rewatchability story. What the fuck? What criteria do people base movies on?
We're professional
What the hell do people normally base it on?
stuff. I'm gonna try to find.
Would it be, would you recommend it or no?
No,
But it ended in a Y?
well, it looks like it because of that line, but who knows what that was?
Shit.
Okay, I'm gonna look at the Justice League one real quick. Hold on.
Enjoyment?
Enjoyment.
There's a Y in that. Oh, it's killing me.
Oh, what is it? It's right there.
Zoom in.
It's all blurry.
Zoom in.
Creativity. Look,
Creativity.
this is what I had to go off of. It's just
Oh.
a big C.
Nice.
That's why I remember why we put that on now is because for some movies like this, that is like the saving grace for like a review in this format.
Yeah. I'll give it a creativity. I'll give a strong 8 because the creativity was like tipping the scale pretty heavy
Right.
in the direction of like good creativity, which is
Yeah.
like always what you like. Creative is like the word that best exemplifies Aronofsky, I think, especially when it comes to his in-camera work.
Right.
This is why I really want you to see some of his other ones because, and the reason I give this one an 8 is because I think he outdoes himself by far
Right.
in Requiem for a Dream and like Mother
Yeah.
and some other ones. Like something that's like doesn't have a whole lot of like I don't know. I don't know what even word to describe, but like The Wrestler, that's just like a story about like this
Right.
dude with his life as a expiring wrestler.
Right.
And I guess it saves you from a bit of like the over the top flashy artsy
Right.
allegorical stuff.
Right.
It's probably the most like straightforward grounded story version of his stuff, but
Right. So
it depends how you like want to classify the
we
creativity word,
gave
but
our official review of The Fountain is a 6.7, and I think somebody's going to look at that and be like, "Oh, they didn't." It's kind of a low score.
they didn't get it.
But honestly, if I'm like, so I know you love this guy, but like this movie specifically, I think he is going to be super high on like the creative realm, but like the rewatchability will be a little off for me. And then like, do you believe it will be a little off for me? Oh, my camera died, I think. But I say that because just because sometimes when you go like full throttle and like this is going to be super super artsy, you kind of lose some of that just like the best way to explain it, I think, in my head is like when you sit down and watch a movie, depending on what the movie is you're watching, like sometimes you just want to be able to watch the movie and enjoy it. And when you like push the boundary of like super abstract, it's almost like I'm not enjoying it anymore because I have to think about how I'm enjoying it, or like I have to connect the dots to enjoy it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Well, yeah, that's why I'd want you to have another Aronofsky movie or two just to kind of balance the scales a little bit, because this one is super abstract with the illustrations going on and all of that.
And that's 6.7. In no way do we say it's a bad movie. In no way.
Oh, no. I think of
just,
it more as a 7 out of 10.
Right. When no, you think of it more of as a 6.8.
Well, if we're rounding up.
Yeah, if we're rounding up, it would be a 7 out of 10 for both of us. But
if that's what IMDb makes us do.
Right.
Can't pick decimals.
But like, for me, it comes down to the rewatch. Oh, we're losing cameras left and right now. Both of our cameras are out.
Oh, well, we'll just fucking finish
the middle one, baby. The rewatchability and the believe it part for me is like, I think if I'm super like critical on it, that's where it's kind of lacking, because it's like super hyper artistic. Like my rewatchability comes like into a hard factor, because like it's just one of those movies that I'm going to have to be in a specific mindset to watch it now. You know what I mean? So it's not just like I'm going to pop it in, I'm not going to pop it in the DVD player or stream it. Pop it in the DVD player, Jesus. I'm not just going to go stream it for the fun of it to watch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's where it's a little lacking. And like the believing it part of it is also when you go that full throttle, like it's a little like, for me, this is why I say I understand you with the Marvel films, because like, if you have something in front of your face that can't at least be tethered to like your real world, even by one strand, the disconnect starts to like really, really happen. And with this, it's not that it was like hanging on by a thread. It's just like there was enough of it where it was just like, it's just a little too far for me.
It's almost like one of those movies. Probably instead of watching it ever again, I'll just watch YouTube videos about it.
Right.
Because I am interested in it, but I don't think I need to watch the whole thing again.
And that's why I said in no way does it mean that it's a bad movie to us. It's just, it's a very specific movie that you're going to want.
Something that should almost be a category is music. Good score.
Should we take one of these off?
Well, I don't know, because like some movies just aren't really or like not really going for a certain kind of.
So now we go.
Like music is like such a huge part of certain films. Like you just can't think of the movie without thinking of the theme, and then other movies are just kind of like. There's fucking some great movies, but like the scores, if you say like, hey, what's the score of this movie? Maybe you can't think of it right away but yeah.
Sound and music.
Okay. I'll give it
We'll go. What, we're adding to this now?
Oh, we've just put it there.
No, this is already scored.
Wait a minute. You
It's
added
over.
a category that we're not going to use it?
Well, what would you rate it? Because overall, I'd
say a 7, because the whole movie didn't. I don't remember music or a score really throughout the entire movie, except for the very end. Had that really good score that I've heard actually used in other places.
Oh, really?
But I think this movie did it first.
So
that fucking composer, Clint Mansell, he made the theme that. I think it's called Requiem for a Dream. The theme is called Requiem for a Dream. The one that goes that dude. He did that score for Requiem, and he did like they actually have like fucking orchestras like as these big events, like people gather up and listen to these scores. what is it? The same fucking. But I forget even exactly how this score goes. I just know I've heard it before seeing this movie, and
It
if I
was
heard
a
it again,
6.7. And we have a 6.4 now.
shit. That brought it down. I thought giving it a 7 and a 6 would help bring it up.
Unfortunately, you were 6.833333333.
So your
That's how much you helped, and then I dropped.
so your 6 just fucked everything up.
Yeah.
Your 6 made it a round down to 6 instead of a round up to 7.
Yep.
Well done. That means that our official Alchemy score
Well, I said I
on a
didn't wanna change
display
it.
in IMDb would read a 6. Well fucking done.
I do not regret anything. Well,
It was a good movie.
yeah, it's a good movie. This is just our, stupid critical score scale of things.
If we actually did rewatch it, shit, maybe we'd walk away with a different fucking score. But whatever, that's the score.
And obviously, like always, as you could tell with this podcast, there are different movies for different people.
Of course,
For
who's
sure.
denying that?
Well, your Marvel rants really were edging towards.
I'm just saying why I
Something
steer
special.
clear after Marvel movie number fucking 17 and fucking cars and shrapnel and debris and skyscrapers and buildings
just naming
flying
CG
all over the
things.
place and just nobody gets hurt from it.
Well-
if that's what you want to subscribe to, then
Subscribe. I would just like to watch the movies.
okay, then the
But I also like
Teletubbies,
watching other movies.
that's also you can get that on eBay.
CG on eBay? What are you talking about anymore? All right, everybody, do the thing. Subscribe. Do the other thing, and listen.
Him that's right.
No, what's this?
But I haven't had one this out.
You're out your cash, you're out to